So if there's one Japanese director of live-action film that can still easily be counted on to make thoughtful, high-quality cinema with appeal beyond the domestic market, it's Kore-eda Hirokazu. With a library that includes Afterlife from 1998, Nobody Knows from 2004, Like Father Like Son from 2013, and 2018's Oscar-nominated Shoplifters, that's Manbiki Kazoku in Japanese, Kore-eda has been creating deeply human, quietly devastating films for over 2 decades. Now, with his new film Monster, Kaibutsu, Kore-eda has returned to Japanese language cinema for the first time in half a decade. Monster is the type of film you think about for days after you see it, but it's also the sort of movie that's desperately hard to discuss without giving away plot and structural points, perhaps best discovered via simply watching the film for yourself. It tackles concepts that are universal, but which also weigh particularly on the mind of many in Japanese society. Conformity, bullying, othering, peer pressure, abuse within the school system. These subjects are taken on via the limited prism of personal observation. There's always more to the story lurking, unseen. The result is a complex film showcasing timely anxieties in a firmly Kore-eda style package. Something that works out quite well given this is also the first time in nearly 30 years that he's directing a film based on somebody else's script. And while Monster's direction feels all Kore-eda's, the movie's surprising structure recalls a much older work by another master filmmaker, Kurosawa Akira's seminal Rashomon.
炎と燃え上がる男女愛欲の大絵巻、死闘、格闘、激闘、行き詰まる男と男の決闘、平然と嘲笑う幼鳥たる美女、神か魔か、荒廃の都の一角、人間の喜怒哀楽を風とともにそびえて聞いた大羅城門。
Come on, Homer, Japan will be fun. You like Rashomon?
That's not how I remember it.
Konnichiwa minasan, and welcome back to Unseen Japan. As always, I'm Noah Oskow, and right now I'm in between working on some big UJ history essays, so I figured it would be a good time to get out a quick movie review video. I'm hoping to continue showcasing new Japanese films, since there's a lot going on in the Japanese industry these days. Like a certain other film coming out next month, and believe me, I will have a review for that one as soon as it drops. Kore-eda is one of Japan's best, so it's pretty exciting to get to cover this new film. If you appreciate what you hear here, consider giving us a like and subscribing, and maybe giving me some support via our Patreon. Anyway, away from the monster of self-promotion, and back to Kaibutsu. I went to the theater to see this film knowing nearly nothing about it. After Shoplifters, one of the best Japanese films of the past decade, I was more than willing to see Kore-eda's newest sight unseen. Of all his movies, this might be the one most worth approaching in that specific way. However, thematically, it's not the sort of movie I can recommend to just anyone to go out and see. It's dark and almost suffocatingly so for much of its runtime. Seeing much of what makes it so memorable in the end takes wading through a good deal of unpleasantness. Now, if you can handle that, I might recommend just skipping the rest of this review. Not that that's a great thing for our metrics, but your cinematic experience is more important to me than view time and clicks. If you want to know more, or perhaps have even already seen the film and want to hear a little bit of my thoughts in a somewhat vague way, then keep on watching. Here's a very basic description of the film's core plot. Saori, Ando Sakura, who also appeared in Shoplifters, is a single mother living in a lake-bound, mid-sized city in Nagano Prefecture. Her son, Minato, who's played by the young Kurosawa Soya, is generally well-adjusted. However, Saori starts to notice some strange behavior in Minato. He spaces out and acts self-destructively, very different from the son she knows. Minato hints at something disturbing going on regarding his elementary homeroom teacher, Mr. Hori, played by the relatively well-known Nagayama Eita. Saori takes the issue to the school, facing down the self-protecting edifice of the local education system. Beneath the surface, however, lies a series of truths beyond the perception of each individual. The inherent question referenced by this film's title is just who this monster is.
私が話してるのは人間?
It's in the framing of this question, much like Rashomon's samurai-era murder trial, in which each involved person describes the inciting incident differently, that the multivariate nature of human perception and truth boils to the surface. There is rarely a singular monster in society, as perhaps there is not a single villain in Minato's seeming victimization. This sort of idea is already interesting enough, if not exactly novel, but it's from there that the film goes in even more intriguing directions. Here, Kore-eda's humanizing direction meshes well with a societally perceptive script by Sakamoto Yuji. One of the many core themes of Monster revolves around how much of a child's life remains hidden from a parent, even an attentive one. Minato is young, an elementary schooler. While he's reaching the age when children begin to yearn for independence, he's still very much a child. And yet, even at an age when parents retain a good deal of control, so much goes on beyond the range of their vision. Saori is forced to act desperately forcefully on the little information she does have. She must protect her son as best she can, but how much can she truly know about what goes on in his life away from her, in the confines of school and the forests and streams he's taken to venturing off into? The school, meanwhile, seems to be purposefully obscuring just what is going on. Many the world over will recognize the frustration of running up against a self-protecting bureaucratic entity. The specifics of the portrayal here, however, is all Japanese. The closed ranks, the canned apologies in the most purely polite and deferential keigo highly polite language, the mutterings and refusals to make any personal statement from the heart, lest you deviate from the prescribed form and bring harm upon the organizational whole. Like so many great Japanese films, Monster is both universal and particular. Anyone who has had dealings with the Japanese school system will recognize some unsettling truths here. But what do the school officials really know anyway? What do they see of Minato's life or his homeroom teacher's actions? Does the system even care about perceiving the little details of the lives of its young charges or of its underpaid and overworked teaching staff? Here too, the range of vision is limited and incomplete. And yet, children themselves often know the least of all. Their world is purposefully siloed. Parents and teachers worry about what secrets are being kept from them, all while purposefully obscuring much of the world from children. When all this lack of perception becomes embroiled in a single traumatic, publicized frenzy, the ramifications can be hard to predict. And yet, as Monster progresses, the audience can feel the dark path being laid, only to have a new perspective laid bare. Soon, we have more knowledge of the elements at play than any single character here could. In Rashomon, the fallibility of human memory, perception, and thus truth is called into question. Monster makes us question our sense of truth when so many facts can never be personally known to us. These are all weighty themes. Ones that seem quite dark given the real-life stories of bullying and abuse coming out of Japanese schools. But like the rest of Kore-eda's work, the darkness is far from all there is to Monster. There are also moments of joy and of childhood adventure and discovery. Monster has a real sense of humanity at its heart. It's these moments eschewing the overall depressing tone of the film that lift it up, making it something special, something that feels real. Kore-eda continually takes on upsetting societal issues, as in his childhood abandonment-themed breakout film, Nobody Knows. There, too, little moments of daily joy help ground a film that would otherwise be unendurably morose. In Monster, the morosity threatens to overtake any enjoyment the film could offer. Then, at last, a shift in perspective reminds us that life is rarely just a series of human tragedies. Still, this may be a tough film to get through for some viewers. You can likely perceive whether or not this is the sort of movie you can put yourself through personally. For viewers who can, though, you'll be rewarded with much to think about, a tightly written script, and a series of great performances.
最終的になんかみんなの当事者になった気分というか
人間として分かる部分がそれぞれにあったので自分にも何か言われてるような気がするような瞬間があって
You'll also likely come away surprised, and I imagine particular plot points will bring much discussion in the coming months as more people worldwide have a chance to see this movie. Monster, while perhaps not Kore-eda's most emotionally rich film overall, is yet another great movie that proves Japanese cinema is alive and well. And like much great cinema, it leaves us thinking about our own society and how much we fail to perceive in the lives of others. Here's an interesting addendum. The elementary school, one of the primary settings of the film, was shot on location at an abandoned school building in Nagano. Other locales throughout the film showcase nature overtaking local infrastructure, the town, which is the picturesque Suwa City, Nagano, fading into the forested mountains that surround it. As Japan's population shrinks and towns like Suwa depopulate, it can sometimes feel like we're losing our grip on society itself. This theme dovetails well with the recent anime hit, Suzume, which also featured an abandoned school building. Although in that case, it was abandoned in-universe, unlike the one in Monster. Even in a film not directly focused on population decline, little connections to that theme, in the back of the minds of so many here in Japan, manage to creep in. Alright everyone, thanks for watching this review. While Monster has been released to some film festivals abroad, it's yet to get a wide release outside of Japan, so thought some of you might find this a bit interesting. To be honest, a full discussion of this film isn't really possible without delving into spoilers, so maybe I'll return to discuss this movie in greater depth once it's out in more markets. There's a lot to talk about, and a lot I think Yuji's audience in particular would find very interesting. Also, I haven't even mentioned the score by the great, and sadly recently late, Sakamoto Yuji. Much of the film's score, which Sakamoto helped curate from his music while very ill with cancer, is in appropriately somber tones. But when the piano kicks in, it does become something special. Alright, I'll be back soon with a longer form video, and I'll be seeing you then. Mata ne.